I think one of the most important topics for public relations students is to look at issue to crisis management, because day in, day out, students are going to have to, when they start work, deal with various issues, and someday, unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with various types of crises. And if you look at it, I think the best way to look at it is to list some crises, and then you appreciate, actually, there are very, very many different types. If I was just to say Zeebrugge, Piper Alpha, Dunblane, 7-7, BSc, bird flu, the Holy Cross School in Northern Ireland, global warming, a violent society, the floods of 2007, the Northern Ireland Troubles, AIDS, the Northern Bank robbery, the recession of 2010, and the BP oil spill of 2010. You start to think, hold on a minute, that they are very, very different. Some of those happened in a day, some are still happening, some are continuous, some are immediate, some are natural disasters, some are man-made. And you begin to think at the breadth of what studying crisis management is about. If you look at the various textbooks, and there are many of them, and some of them particularly good, that focus on crisis management and issue management, then you often get lists, and they're often corporate-based type issue and crises. For example, loss of life by explosion, terrorist attacks, fires, aviation, railway disasters, shipping accidents, product recalls, extortion and blackmail, redundancy, factory closure, animal rights attacks, hostile takeovers, industrial disputes and strikes, media scares related to, let's say, company products. All these things are considered to be crises relevant to many companies in the UK and Ireland. What about adverse international events like strength or weakness of a currency? What about new legislation and its potential negative impact on an organisation? All these things, I think, are crises as far as companies are concerned. Then, if you look at the text again, you start to go from these lists of types of crises to definitions. And I think it's very important as a student that you try and grasp or take one particular definition and then develop it. And one of the best definitions, I think, is from one of the gurus of crisis management, Michael Bland. And Michael defines crises as a serious incident affecting human safety, the environment, product, corporate reputation, which has received or been threatened with adverse publicity. Now, I think Michael's definition is important because, first of all, he stresses it's a serious incident, and it often draws quite negative publicity or publicity itself. And of course it's serious in the sense that it often involves human safety. That, to me, that particular definition of Michael Bland, I think is a good one. Others like Brundage look at it as a crisis is anything that has the potential to negatively affect the reputation or credibility of an organisation. Now that's a really interesting definition because that suggests that a crisis is not just a crisis when it's happened, but there's a potential crisis effect. And that's where perhaps the reputation or the relationship, between an issue and a crisis is significant to students. And another one by other gurus like Seymour and Moore say it is a disruption of normal patterns of corporate activity by sudden, overpowering and initially uncontrollable events. Now that again, because that adds another dimension where a crisis is something where an organisation almost loses control and has to take back that control. Now those are some really good definitions, sensible definitions of crises. There are then the ridiculous ones that you will come across, like people who would say that the crisis is anything that concerns the client or anything that affects the bottom line of the company. They are not crises. They are merely issues to be managed, sorted out, dealt with as part of the day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year running of any organisation. But I encourage you to try and grasp your own definitions.